Let me tell you something unsettling about silence in the digital age. Not the peaceful kind of silence people romanticize, but the kind that makes others uncomfortable. The kind that raises questions without asking any. We live in a time where visibility is treated as existence, where to be seen is to matter, and to be unseen is often mistaken for absence. Every moment is documented, every feeling translated into something shareable, every experience filtered until it becomes acceptable. And yet, among all this noise, there are people who remain quiet, not temporarily, intentionally. They scroll, they watch, they absorb, but they do not announce themselves. And that silence confuses people. Because in a culture obsessed with expression, silence feels like resistance. It feels suspicious. It makes others wonder what is being hidden, what is being withheld, what is being judged. But silence is not always emptiness. Sometimes it is containment. Sometimes it is awareness. Sometimes it is the refusal to turn life into a performance. Social media has trained us to believe that sharing is honesty, that posting is authenticity, that visibility equals connection. But this belief rests on a fragile assumption, that what is shown is what is real. In truth, most of what we see online is not reality, but interpretation, not experience, but presentation. It is identity, carefully shaped for approval. A version of the self designed to be consumed. And some people see through that. They recognize that every post carries a silent question. Do you see me? Do you approve of me? Do I belong? And they choose not to ask it. Psychologically, this choice is more complex than it appears. People who rarely post or who withdraw from online visibility are often assumed to be shy, introverted, or socially anxious. Sometimes that is true, but often it is not. Beneath the surface, there is a deeper dynamic at work, one rooted in self-perception, emotional regulation, and a quiet resistance to external validation. Research in psychology suggests that individuals who refrain from frequent self-disclosure online often demonstrate higher levels of introspection and self-restraint. They are less reactive, less dependent on comparison, less influenced by the emotional weather of the crowd. Their sense of identity is not constantly negotiated in public. It is developed in private. In a world that rewards loudness, this kind of inward orientation is rare. Most people do not realize how deeply social media has altered the way they think about themselves. It does not simply provide a platform for expression. It reshapes the very structure of self-worth. Every notification becomes a signal, every like a micro-affirmation, every lack of response a subtle rejection. Over time, the brain begins to associate visibility with value. Dopamine reinforces the cycle. You post, you are seen, you feel rewarded. And slowly, you start living for what can be shown rather than what can be felt. But those who stop posting interrupt this loop. They begin to experience moments without translating them into captions. They stop framing their lives in ways that are legible to others. And in doing so, they reclaim something essential: psychological ownership. Psychological ownership is the feeling that something belongs deeply and exclusively to you. A memory, a thought, an experience. When you share something publicly, especially online, that ownership weakens. The moment becomes exposed to interpretation, judgment, misunderstanding. It becomes content. And content does not belong to the creator anymore. It belongs to the audience. Some people sense this intuitively. They feel that posting takes something away from the experience itself, that the act of sharing dilutes the meaning. So they keep their moments private, untouched, untranslated. This is not isolation, it is preservation. But silence does not always come from strength. Sometimes it comes from exhaustion, from emotional burnout, from the slow realization that constant visibility carries a cost. There is a unique fatigue that emerges from living in a perpetual state of observation. Even when no one is watching, the mind behaves as if it is. This is known as self-presentational pressure, the feeling that you are always being evaluated, even in your absence. For many, this pressure becomes unbearable. They begin to second-guess their words before speaking, their thoughts before sharing, their feelings before feeling them. The fear of being misunderstood, ignored, or judged grows louder than the desire to connect. So they retreat, not because they do not want connection, but because they want it to be real. Ironically, the people who are quiet online often carry the loudest inner worlds. Their minds are active, their perceptions sharp, their emotional lives intense. They do not lack depth. They are overwhelmed by it. There is something deeply philosophical about choosing invisibility in a world that demands exposure. It is a statement, even when it is unspoken. It says, "I exist beyond your gaze. My reality does not require your validation. My life is not a product." This stance unsettles people because it challenges a shared illusion, the illusion that we must be seen to be real. But some of the most transformative experiences in human life happen away from witnesses. Grief, growth, healing, identity formation. These processes unfold quietly. They resist documentation. They cannot be summarized in a post. And those who have lived through enough private transformations understand something fundamental. Being unseen is not the same as being insignificant. This is where the paradox of social media reveals itself most clearly. Platforms designed to connect us often amplify isolation. They replace presence with proximity, interaction with intimacy. When you stop posting, you step out of that illusion. You begin to see who reaches out without reminders, who remembers without updates, who connects without evidence. These connections feel different, heavier, more grounded. They do not rely on visibility. They rely on attention. Attention, not exposure, is the foundation of real connection. People who withdraw from constant posting often rediscover this. They invest in relationships that do not require proof. They value conversations that leave no digital trace. They understand that some bonds grow stronger in silence. This choice is closely linked to identity security. Knowing who you are when no one is watching, when there is no audience, no feedback, no applause. This is not arrogance. It is stability. A secure sense of self does not need to announce itself. It does not need to be mirrored constantly to remain intact. And yet, this quiet confidence is often misunderstood. Silence is interpreted as distance, privacy as secrecy, invisibility as disengagement. But for many, it is the opposite. It is a deeper engagement with life itself. They experience moments directly, not through a lens. They travel without narrating. They feel without explaining. They exist without translating themselves into something consumable. And in doing so, they notice things others miss. The texture of time when it is not interrupted by notifications. The weight of silence in a meaningful conversation. The subtle shifts in emotion that occur when no one is watching. Presence becomes sharper. Life feels slower, richer, more dimensional. Neuroscience offers an explanation for this. The constant stimulation of social media fragments attention. It trains the brain to seek novelty, validation, reaction. When that stimulation is removed, attention consolidates. Emotional regulation improves. Thought becomes deeper, less reactive. Many studies show that stepping away from social media leads to increased emotional stability and life satisfaction. Not because life becomes easier, but because it becomes more real. However, it is important to acknowledge that not all silence is peaceful. For some, staying quiet online is driven by fear rather than clarity. Fear of judgment, fear of misinterpretation, fear of being exposed. Social platforms magnify vulnerability while offering very little protection. Once something is shared, control is lost. So some people choose safety over visibility. They want to be seen, but only truly, not superficially, not in fragments, not as a version of themselves optimized for approval. They are waiting for a kind of connection that social media cannot provide. This waiting can feel lonely, even when it is chosen. There are moments of doubt, moments where silence feels like disappearance, where watching others perform happiness triggers a quiet anxiety. Am I falling behind? Am I missing something? Am I becoming invisible? But over time, something stabilizes. They realize that worth does not evaporate in the absence of witnesses, that identity does not dissolve when unobserved, that existence does not require documentation. This realization is subtle, but profound. We live in a generation that has confused visibility with value. We assume that to matter, we must be noticed. But meaning does not depend on recognition. Some of the most defining moments of a human life occur without witnesses. No cameras, no captions, no audience, just presence. And those who stop posting often understand this instinctively. They understand that privacy is not loneliness. It is intimacy with the self. When you stop broadcasting every thought, you begin to hear your own again. The internal voice that was drowned out by feedback returns. Desires become clearer, fears more honest, direction more grounded. There is something almost spiritual about this return, not in a religious sense, but in a psychological one. It is a reconnection with the internal world, a reclaiming of inner space. Of course, this path is not without tension. Living quietly in a loud world creates friction. Others may project narratives onto your silence. They may assume detachment, indifference, even superiority. But silence does not ask to be understood by everyone. It asks only to be respected. And here is another paradox. The people who live quietly often feel life more intensely, because they are not distracted by the performance of it. They are not splitting their attention between living and documenting. They are fully inside the experience. And presence, real presence, is the rarest currency in a culture built on attention extraction. But presence can be isolating. When you are truly present, you see the world as it is, not as it is portrayed. You see the gap between image and reality, between connection and interaction, between noise and meaning. And once you see that gap, it is difficult to unsee it. So you become selective with your words, with your exposure, with your energy. You stop explaining yourself to everyone. You stop trying to be legible to the crowd. This selectivity is often mistaken for withdrawal, but it is actually refinement. The quiet people online are not empty. They are full of observations, full of unshared stories, full of internal dialogue. They are not absent. They are inward. They save their stories for moments that can hold them, for conversations that deserve them, for people who are present enough to listen. Because real connection, to them, is not measured in engagement metrics. It is measured in shared silence, in unspoken understanding, in moments that do not need witnesses to be real. And maybe that is the deepest lesson their silence offers, that not everything meaningful needs to be shared, that some experiences lose their power when exposed, that some parts of the self deserve to remain untouched by algorithms and opinions. Once something becomes public, it stops being purely yours. It becomes subject to interpretation, distortion, trend. And some moments are too fragile for that, too sacred, too human. So the next time you notice someone who never posts, resist the urge to assume they are hiding. Maybe they are simply living. Maybe they found something the rest of us are still chasing, a way to exist without performing. to connect without broadcasting, to be without proving. Because being unseen does not mean being alone. Being quiet does not mean being empty. And silence is not the absence of meaning. Sometimes it is where meaning lives. In the end, we were never meant to be content. We were meant to be people. And the people who choose silence in a world that demands noise remind us of something essential: that life does not need an audience to be real, that identity is formed in private, not performed in public, and that sometimes the most honest expression of who you are is the one you never post.